going to go ahead and get started with the design, build, construction panel. I am Ben Temple. I work with ECS Southeast with other SEDC giants, Chuck Whipple and Raul Peralta, who I'm sure you know. We're geotechnical environmental consultants here in the Southeast. I'm out of Greenville, South Carolina. And I'll let the panel here introduce themselves, starting with Heather.
Hi, my name is Heather Ramon-Ayala. Oh, sorry. I'm so used to being so loud by myself. Hello. Hi, my name is Heather Ramon-Ayala. I'm the Director of Business Development for Yates Construction, and I am based out of San Antonio, Texas. We're a general contractor, do a lot of manufacturing work throughout the U.S.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Quemonen. I'm with Denham Blythe Company. We're a Lexington-based design-build firm. Do mostly industrial-type construction, but also some healthcare and commercial work as well.
Marcus Taylor with Gray Construction, Kentucky-based contractor, kind of execute work coast to coast and overseas as well, primarily focused on the industrial sector with a special focus on the foreign investment here to the North American market.
Hey, I'm Jason Vaughn with Agracel. We're an industrial real estate developer based in, I'm based in Greenville. We're based in Illinois, and we focus on 95% of manufacturing. 24 million square feet in 22 states, and I get to work with contractors a lot, so it should be fun to talk about.
All right, great. So we got the contractor side, the owner side represented as well. So we'll just ring the bell and get it started. First of all, I don't want to understand what the design. So could I get one of you to just kind of give a little background on design build, maybe how it came to be and what problems it solves?
Don't know if I can give you the background because or not, but it gained a lot of popularity as speed to market became so important to customers and clients today. Manufacturers obviously are always trying to get to producing their widgets faster, better, and easier, and one to get the construction part where they're investing their dollars, not making any money, get that done as fast as possible. The build side is compared to the traditional plan spec design construct or design approach. What we see is a traditional design process with an owner sitting down with consultants who are typically paid by the hour. They have no real interest in speeding that process along. So the design process can take anywhere from 8 months to a year and a half, depending upon the complexity of the project, to get it fully figured out, identified, and put on paper before it can go out for a complete bid. In the bid process, then the construction process. So you've lost, in many cases, up to a year or more just on that pre-planning and the figuring out what they're going to be building. Conversely, with design build, we have customers come to us, I know that literally they want to be breaking ground in 4 weeks at the most. And so that's not a whole lot of time to get design down on paper, pricing, and get to work. It shaves out all that planning time, but it does put some risk in the overall process because the owner has to understand what it is that they want, and they have to be guided through that process with the design build firm as to what information is needed to allow the construction to start. So I don't know if that answers the question as much as it's just an entirely different process. It is designed by nature to eliminate a lot of the delays that you incur, as well as it also helps to have a one source responsibility. And that's a huge thing where with traditional design, bid, build, you always have the designers on one side, the contractor on the other, and the owners in the middle. And it's always a finger pointing game. If there's ever a problem in the design, the contractor is always looking for more money. If there's ever a problem with the construction, the consultant's got to be the one to figure it out, which costs the owner more money. So it's a a responsibility issue as well that it solves.
I think a key factor too in the difference is that the general contractor owns the contract. So the contract is with the general contractor from the owner, and in turn, we issue a contract to the design team. So you do have one person responsible, but it is the general contractor driving that.
Okay, great. And that's a great introduction to several of the things that we want to talk about today. So sticking with the speed to market, we've been hearing a lot about that yesterday and today. You mentioned that as the primary benefit, as a primary benefit of design build. Can you talk a little bit more about that from any of you, about specifically how design build helps market quicker?
Maybe I'll kick it off. So I think design build is it takes the traditional design process and it goes to more of a just-in-time fast-track delivery that coincides with a lot of the local communities. It's how to actually process because you're allowed to review certain information quicker to get some of those decisions back to the company to progress the project with actual activities on site a lot sooner than you would with the traditional design through kind of issued for permit set to get reviewed. And so you're companies to make some of those decisions, which ultimately and so design really is more about design efficiency with earlier price certainty in that process to allow on-site activities to be a bit quicker.
I think another part of that too is the ability to procure things sooner. Not discussed over the past day about lead times on everything, in particular electrical is always an issue. And so the sooner that you have your construction team involved with your design team, working hand in hand, as well as with your owner of what type of product are you trying to put out, what kind of electrical load do you need, then we could get those items procured, and that process can get started while you're still continuing to finish the design. Things accomplished and moving the project. You don't want to finish the project or, you're finishing with the core and shell and you're still waiting around on electrical transformers.
Yeah, I would just add from an owner's perspective that we do delay decisions. A lot of times it's because of our tenants and a lot of times that's internal to us, but it's almost like the site selectors. When you had a site visit, let's say 10 years ago, they would spend 3 days here or wherever they are, and you had that time to show them around. There was a lot of time to do things. But now we have tenants that come to us and maybe we talked to them 2 years before until they get the contract. And then once they make a decision, they want to be in 10 months. And we've got a project in Michigan. It's $90 million. It's 230,000 square foot. The site, they want to be in at 10 megawatts of power, which has been a thing. There's lots of power required. 12,000 amps. The 12,000 amps will take 2 years to get here. That's one thing that they don't realize, that we make and deliver the building, but we're not going to have the power to run their equipment. And with design build, I think we've been not forced into design build, but we've been led into the design build project from tenants and manufacturers. Because what it allows us to do is get a 30% design, get our team together. We'll work off of what we call a ROM, a rough order of magnitude estimate. Gets our team together for 30% design, and we're ordering joist and deck and roof and steel for the project while the balance of the project is still being designed. So really the schedule part is what's advantageous to us when we talk about design build.
Yeah, great. And since you mentioned cost, the delays involved there. Obviously, construction costs, we've heard several times here about escalating costs recently. So what are some ways that design build can help, if not control those costs, help owners anticipate and quantify those costs maybe? Any of you?
One of the best ways to control costs in any design build project is to, to Jason's point of get that 30% set of drawings as quickly as possible. And typically, at least in our industry or our area of the world, we're working with other design build subcontractors as well that are used to the process. So we can feed them 30% concept drawings that really get across the point of what is being required and is necessary, whether it's electrical needs, a wastewater treatment facility portion. Give enough of a picture that allow these subcontractors to get real numbers, real information, hard pricing that they can stick with. Don't like, and it doesn't matter what construction. Whether it's the contractor or supplier, this is kind of like you're mentioning about the deck early. Knock on wood, I hope we'll never do again. Typically during the life of a design build project, you might see specific components going up 1%, 2, 3, 4 at the most, and we have contingencies that are built into our estimates to help avoid having to go back to the well for more money. But nobody could have predicted or prevented what we saw over the past couple of years. So
Yeah, I think the other way from the, I would say, price certainty is it's really more of a collaborative environment. And that's really what helps with the marketplace today is when an owner decides that they've got a design build partner, it kind of lets the market know the project's real. It's no longer kind of, I would say, in that, kind of tire kicking stage and the project's proceeding. And so that gives certainty in the marketplace that, this project is proceeding, it's real, and orders are going to come fairly quick. And so that helps drive with a lot of the major vendors, subcontractors as well, to really start planning their work, securing the labor resources, which is a big issue right now that helps on, I would say, that price certainty is securing the skilled workforce to go inside to actually put the work in place. So that design build process really is helping to get the certainty in the marketplace that the project is proceeding they've specified early on.
And beyond the price, as I mentioned earlier, about getting items locked in, I have colleagues that tease me in Texas about 2 large advanced manufacturing projects we have there taking up all the concrete in Texas. And so just making sure if, we're going to do something precast, are we on the schedule? Do we have that time certainty locked in with that vendor when you need it at that scale of what some of these large projects that we're seeing now in the market are? Even when we're looking for, resources such as people. I talk about, we're not going to find people that have necessarily done projects to the size and scale that we are seeing now in the market. And so resources, whether it's material, actual people, those two are critical as everybody's in a hurry to finish their project.
And talking about the delayed decisions for the past year or two, joist and deck pricing was good for 14 days. So if you didn't order it within 14 days, and we had some that bids were canceled on day 13, the price went up 6%, 8% on $3 million, and it's a real cost to us. So are you seeing relief? Like when you say you lock in prices, is that locked in now, or because it wasn't locked in before?
We've definitely seen the relaxation of the, we'll call it the pressure point on the, I need a decision by this date. Now, I'm not going to say that they're willing to hold it 6 months, but we absolutely, for steel, for concrete, for the basic building materials, we've definitely seen them willing to lock in. And for your longer procurement items, switchgear, that sort of thing, we've definitely seen a relaxation of the rush to market or rush to purchase, if you will. And the other thing too is from the delivery standpoint, what we've seen is pre-engineered metal buildings have gotten out to like 20 months, which had been unheard of. And we've definitely seen that relax back down on a basic pre-engineered metal building to even 12 to 16 weeks at this point from certain vendors. So that's a huge improvement for us.
Yeah, and we talk about all the time, I'm sure you guys do as well, discuss pricing and lead times in my life. And so it's very different in that, we feel like it's stabling out and people ask, do you think it'll go back down? No. So then I pull out my magic 8 ball and shake it, and it doesn't say that we're going back down. So, but is it finally stabling out? We think so, yeah.
And kind of keeping in line with as an outsider a little bit looking in, I imagine for site selectors or people in the room dealing with projects coming through, obviously, I think from an owner's perspective, a lot of times, especially maybe foreign direct investment like we here, design, bid, build, project, right? So could you make the audience understand how they can explain to a misnomer and that you actually can get competitive pricing through design build? Marcus?
So I think order of magnitude of where the cost of the market's at. Today's marketplace, the only people who really understand the true cost are the contractors. They're dealing with it day in, day out. And so you have to, at some point, engage to really understand where the market's trending. The design coinciding with the budget development. So as price starts to, say, shift away from the initial estimate, you're able to refine it quicker. Whereas with the design bid build process, you're kind of designing in a vacuum without really having a market validation with it. The other side, I think, that piggybacks with that from the vendors. You're still getting 3 to 5 bids, specific trades, so you're still keeping a competitive environment, which usually helps keep your schedules more on track.
Suppliers, they know it's a design project, they understand it, and if it's different, I can knock 2%, 5%, 10%. They've got a better way to skin the cat. And, you know, many consultants, many designers, they don't see done different in different states, the site work or the geotech side of things. But it's amazing. Reduce the costs.
I know that I'll help a lot some of my local economic development communities in, you know, talking with different prospects that they have. And oftentimes I'll ask, what's more important, your time or your money? And I already know the answer is going to be both. And that's when it's like, and that's what design build does. It saves you both, time and money. So if they're both important to you, as every single client we have in this market says, then let's move to a process that's going to make that happen.
So, and not to put you on the spot, Jason, but is your experience with the construction industry, I think you mentioned that most of your most recent projects have been design build. I assume that you maybe agree to a large extent that that is a cost competitive way to get the project done.
Yeah, certainly on the schedule. So the difficulty we have with our tenants is, especially with folks from overseas, they want to show competition. And we go back to 85-90% of the projects. Everything we do is kind of open book, full transparency. So what we recommend sometimes is, you know, control what you can control. In a design build process, the two things that we can control are fees and GCs. So maybe get a handful of folks, just see where those come out, interview them, and pick a team. With design build, the value that the design builder brings is certainly on the front end. And we're not comfortable asking for all the secrets. What would you do to make this more cost efficient, and then get that from 4 or 5 people and then take all the pieces of information? It's just, to me, that's not the right way to approach it. So finding the right team with the right experience that's local to the area. I do like the fact that there's one source of responsibility. So if the shield gets lost, That's too soon for me. The design builder, that's their responsibility. We're all in the risk aversion here. It's the risk lies with who, and back to the owners. So from a schedule and cost standpoint, the hard part is communicating the perceived non-competition to foreign direct companies.
All right, we're going to shift gears a little bit here because I was curious. I picked up on, I can't remember who said it when we were talking earlier, but one of you mentioned you felt like the design build process could actually help with site readiness and help move sites maybe up the list. I see all of you nodding here. So could you talk a little bit, that was kind of new to me as a concept. I'm curious to hear more about that. How can local economic developers partner with their design build team members to help move their sites up the list?
Well, I'll kick it off. So I think part of it too is, I think what a lot of the consultants touched on this morning and yesterday, it's really having an understanding of what your site is really equipped to service. And so if you're looking at distribution, a distribution site readiness is completely different from a food processor. And so working with your local contractors, design build partners, you can really plan for what type of industry you're looking to attract to the community. Look at some of those upgrades that may be needed at the municipality level with the power level to really be, I would say, a player in the process, whether you're looking at some of these large advanced manufacturing facilities or if you're looking at some of the traditional food processing, of understanding the requirements that are going to come with the RFI or from the prospective companies that they're touting, because those are the questions they're going to ask early on in the process. And as long as you have a plan of how you're actually going to either upgrade or service it, that keeps you in play. And so working with the design build firm, they can kind of, assist you in that process, give you those timelines, give you those cost models that will be required to get those sites to a point to where it is able to be, I would say, top of mind in that review process and ultimately get you those site visits.
I would also add that in many cases, a lot of the local communities really don't have that much money to invest in the planning and the design and the kind of getting to that first step, if you will. Many design build firms will invest quite a bit of money to assist you with that development, with that design, with understanding, whether that's working with consultants, whether that's producing drawings, whether that's, geotechnical explorations, a lot of different things we will take on as a design build team just to make sure that we're still positioned to be involved for the next step when that customer, that client actually gets to town, so that we can be on that bid list. We can be part of that group. It doesn't guarantee us any work, but what it does is it guarantees us the opportunity. Because one of the things we all see is that if we're not invited to that bid process, we can't make money. You have to spend money to be invited to the table sometimes. So we can be a resource, design build groups can be a resource to you as economic developers to help get you free help, if you will, that isn't always available through the consulting side where they have to be paid for everything they do.
Yeah, that's something that I do quite often too, is working with our local economic development teams, working even with our state's team. And it's like, hey, we're willing to help whatever it is up front and take it on as a marketing cost, because frankly, I'm just looking for an introduction. I know I've got to compete, and we'll do the rest from there, but let me help you out to get this ready, because whether or not we're building this one, it may be the one next to it or next to it, whether it's a supplier of that project. So, we're definitely willing to step in and help. Just give a call.
Great. Yeah, that helps. Jason, you have anything to add?
Oh, no, I was going to say for the economic developers in the room, I'd take you up on that offer.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And then the other issue that we have, obviously, a lot in the industry continues to be workforce, even within the trades. I know we as consultants struggle with that as well. Is there a way that design build can address that? Does design build help that over another process?
I think with the design build process, with part of the planning is you're developing those manpower curves on those projects. So you're seeing those peaks and valleys of when it's those high demands of certain trades or skilled workforce on those projects. We've got a couple projects now that we're looking at that at peak, we're looking at over 300 electricians or pipe fitters. That is a huge demand in any time, let alone right now when everyone is, I would say, resource strapped. But what that does allow you to do is plan and look at better ways to, I would say, break up some of those packages to where it's more attractive to some of the local partners, to where they can be involved, and you have some of the more regional or national companies come in and support that. So the early planning that you get with the design-build process of understanding some of those peaks with the necessary resource needs, you're able to kind of plan that a little bit different of how you sequence it, how you actually market that to the marketplace to keep folks involved and give them an idea of when they need resources on site versus saying, hey, I need you in 2 weeks, which at this point, no one's going to be able to react to that timeline.
I don't have much to add to that. That was very good.
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier, Bill, about when someone does say, hey, we're going design build, then it's like, oh, okay, this is really happening. And, you know, trade partners aren't waiting around to see, is this project going to actually move forward? They understand, hey, the general contractor has a contract, and they're working with the design team every day now. This is moving forward.
Yeah, and I would agree that even with my own experience, when we get a call from a design build contractor, it's a real job. We know we're in the hunt. And we're often providing pricing for testing or whatever to the owner or to the design build contractor. It is a different feel than somebody that is one of 5 bidders to a GC. So I would agree with that as well. All right, well, we have a few more minutes and would be happy to take some questions from the audience. If there's some microphones here, you just want to shout it out. Be happy to field some questions here with our panel of experts. What I've heard so far is that it's cost competitive, there are no change orders, they can solve all the problems with workforce and site development, so I don't know what else there is to...
And they do free due diligence. Yeah.
And they
drop
do
the mic.
That's it, I think we're done. So any questions from the audience?
I would just make a comment while we're waiting on a question for site selectors about setting the expectation for cost of construction is something that we talk about a lot, but Jim and I were talking outside. You know, he raised a good question. He said, why is it cheaper to build in Europe than it is in the USA? And I'm trying to think through logically how that works. But yeah, setting the expectation. We were doing 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 square foot buildings at $35, $40 a foot 4 or 5 years ago. Those are 70, 80, 85 bucks a foot now. So we've seen it almost double that cost. And like you said, it's like the interest rate curve. It goes up fast, but it'll trickle down over time, but it's never gonna get back. Well, it may get back to where it was, but yeah, the expectation of construction costs is something that we fight a lot, yeah.
You know, we talked about resources too. One of the things I wanted to bring up is not just trade partners, not just material, but us as well. And so, you know, for us, when there's a design build opportunity, it's more attractive as well, I think, than a traditional design bid build job on whether or not we decide to pursue the project. We're very fortunate to be in a market where we can be a little picky and choosy about our clients because the market is that saturated right now. And I think that also is something that, you know, you should be telling prospects looking in your area that this is something that's also more attractive to general contractors, to trade partners, to design teams overall as a process.
All right, any other parting comments from any of the rest of you here? I don't see any, I can't see out there, but I don't see any other questions coming in.
We should write a textbook, guys. We're so good at this. Answered all the questions.
Answered all the questions. Perfect. Anything else from the group?
I'd just like to say thank y'all for listening to us. I know it's a lot of days here, or at least a couple long days, and we really appreciate being here and hope to get the chance to work with all of you.
All right, well, great. Well, thank you to the panelists here. Heather, Bill, Marcus, Jason, thank you for your time, and thank you guys for attending. We are going to roll right into the next panel, which is, I believe, the marketing panel. So take a break in place. Stay tuned.